Hi, it's me JD and welcome back to my channel. We're making some tone-on-tone cards today, so sit back, subscribe, and let's get creating. Guys, I got my fancy new electronic die cutting machine, whoop whoop! And I already messed it up. As you can see by my cutting plate, I am still trying to get a hang of putting the dies face up and the paper face down, and it's gonna take some getting used to. And probably some extra cutting plates. Anyway, I've got this alphabet die. I cut out some letters, simple, H-I for high, and I'm using some really pretty cardstock from Tonic Studios. Most of the supplies I'll be using is from their Dream in Color line, so it's perfect for spring, and this cardstock is perfect because it already has lines for me to line up my alphabet die cuts. Woohoo! As I mentioned, we're making tone-on-tone cards, so the first way to add a tone-on-tone technique is to add die cuts. The second way is to do some ink blending, as I'm about to do here. I wanted this card front to be a little more dramatic and have a little more interest to it, so I went in with distressed oxide inks in various shades of purple to help deepen the color and to make my sentiment stand out a little more. Another way to add tone-on-tone is to add some pretty gems. These are really unique looking embellishments I have. I always like adding gems or sequins as a finishing touch. It always adds something extra to the card. When in doubt, bling it out. That's my motto. Speaking of bling it out, I'm also going to go in with Nuvo drops, except this time they're not drops. I'm going to add a drop shadow to my word die cut. And I didn't know if it would work, but it definitely does, and I really like the shine that it gives to this card. I mean, you definitely need a steady hand, but you can for sure make Nuvo drops go beyond drops and make, lines or different shapes. To finish this card, I'll add a glitter cardstock panel to the back. For my next card, I'm going to do some stamping and heat embossing. I got my stamping tool out, and then I'll ink it in Versamark ink. Swing the door over and make sure I get a good impression. It's a new stamp, so you always gotta make sure. And my stamping tool is looking worse for wear. It's all dinged up and marked up. I gotta clean that. Okay, next I'll pour some embossing powder over. And while I funneled all of the excess powder back into the jar, I made sure that my heat tool was on and nice and hot. And then I brought it to the paper and it melted this powder fabulously. Next, to add some more tone on tone, I'm going to add some glitter. To add the glitter, I'm going to use some really strong double-sided adhesive. To do this tone-on-tone technique, you'll definitely need some supplies, as in you'll need something to clean up the glitter. I'm using a scratch piece of paper to catch all of the excess glitter. And then I'm going to peel off the double-sided adhesive. In retrospect, I should not have done it this way. I should have cut off the excess adhesive first, and you'll see why in a couple of minutes. But here, I'll show you my mistake anyway. So I'm going to dump the glitter over. First of all, I can't put this panel down because there's excess tape hanging everywhere. So I'm kind of juggling the jar of glitter, hoping that I don't spill it. And then I pour the glitter over, and thankfully, I don't spill the jar. It pours exactly how I want it to, but it's catching on that excess tape that I have hanging off. The last thing I want to do is have that tape catch on something or stick to something, and then I inadvertently yank the whole strip off my panel. So I'm kind of doing everything in the air with my hands right now. I can't set this piece down because of that excess tape. So yeah, see, there's my problem. I lay it down anyway because I have to funnel this glitter back into the jar. In my mind, I'm really hoping that my card panel does not stick to any surface and does not pull off my card panel. And so I go to cut off the excess with these non-stick scissors, but they're still sticking to the tape. And thank goodness I didn't throw away those backings because they're perfect for burnishing all of this glitter to the tape. That just means I'm really pushing down that glitter so it sticks to the tape and nothing else, and it doesn't rub off or come off in the future. So I learned my lesson this time. I'm going to stick my double-sided adhesive on. Then I'm going to cut off the excess first. Your girl here is growing. She's learning from her mistakes. Once all of the excess tape is cut off, then I will peel off the front of this double-sided adhesive and then pour on the glitter, and this is so much easier and smoother than the first time around. I'm gonna really press this glitter down, and then I will funnel the excess glitter back into the jar, and this card is finished. Another way to add tone on tone to your card is to use a stencil and some kind of medium to go over top of that stencil, whether it be foiling, paste. In my case, I am going to be using this Embellishment mousse. It's a very similar color to my cardstock, but I love that the Embellishment mousse has this extra special shimmer to it. This will add texture and shine to my card front. When you're working with this medium, you definitely never want to stick your finger in it and smear it, even though it's tempting. That's why I'm using a blending tool, a blending sponge, to put this on there. And then I'm going to set this aside to dry, and while it's drying, I'm going to clean off my stencil. And I'm also going to do some die cutting. I need as much practice as I can get with this fancy schmancy doohickey. Maybe one day I will stop ruining my cutting plates by putting them in the wrong sandwich. Alright, you guys know how I love a word die with a shadow die, so that's what I'm doing here. I like that it creates dimension to my word die cut. You can see it. You can see it a little more clearly. It stands out a little more, and it adds some color. Well, kind of color, because it's a tone-on-tone card. So once my card panel is dry 100%, I'm going to adhere it to a card base. I got a little too excited with my tape runner and it went all the way down to the edge when I didn't want it to. If that happens to you, you can just use your finger to rub that off. Then I'll adhere my panel, centering it, and then I'll glue down my word die cut. When word die cuts have that shadow die cut in the back, it is much easier to glue everything down. Next, I'll add some more bling to my card, and this card is just about finished. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate you, and be sure to stick around for the next video.